Today is Wednesday, December 7th. We're talking about what's next for the Trump Organization now that it's been convicted of fraud and what the former president is saying about it. Also, the outcome of that highly anticipated runoff in Georgia and a case before the Supreme Court that could make a big difference for future elections. Plus, a multi-billion-dollar boost coming from Taiwan to the U.S. Why Meta's own oversight board is calling for another big change. And which TikTok videos went the most viral this year. Those stories and more news next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Former President Trump's businesses were found guilty of criminal tax fraud. A jury convicted two parts of the Trump Organization for helping executives dodge taxes on extravagant perks. Perks like Manhattan apartments, luxury cars, private school tuition for their children, and even cash. Now the multi-billion-dollar company faces a $1.6 million fine. Sentencing is scheduled for next month, but defense lawyers say they plan to appeal. Former President Trump himself was not on trial here, but he still says the whole case was a political witch hunt against him. Prosecutors disagree. They say the Trump Organization has a, quote, culture of fraud and deception. The case was mostly built around testimony from the company's longtime chief financial officer, who admitted to taking off-the-books perks that were not taxed. He agreed to testify as part of a plea deal he made in his own criminal case, and because of it, he was sentenced to only 5 months in prison instead of several years. So what now? Well, besides a potential fine, the Trump Organization might have a hard time making deals. As ABC News points out, banks could call in loans and business partners could cancel contracts if they have policies keeping them from doing business with felons. Separately, the Trump Organization is facing a lawsuit out of New York, accusing it of misleading banks and others about the value of its assets. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court is taking on what one former federal judge has called the single most important case on American democracy in this nation's history. It has to do with how much power state lawmakers have over national elections. The case started in North Carolina, where the Republican-led state legislature passed a new political map that divided up the state's 14 House seats, redrawing the districts voting for representatives. The North Carolina Supreme Court said it was not constitutional and that Republicans drew maps that would just help other Republicans get elected. This is often called gerrymandering. Well, now those lawmakers say a state Supreme Court ruling should not matter anyway, since it's the federal Constitution that gives them the ultimate power to draw maps and set national election rules, even if they violate state laws or state constitutions. But that theory has its skeptics, who say the lawmakers are misreading history and constitutional law, and that if it is accepted, it would ruin the checks and balances in state governments. The U.S. Supreme Court justices will start hearing all of these different arguments today. If they side with the North Carolina Republicans, a lot could change, like other state electoral maps and independent redistricting commissions in states like California, Arizona, and Michigan. Plus, a lot of election methods voters have approved in certain states, like ranked choice voting and expanded voting by mail, they could also be scrapped. Instead, all new election laws would have to go through federal courts. So far, at least some of the justices have said they're open to considering those kinds of changes, but it might be a while before we know what they ultimately decide. They have until next summer to issue a ruling. It's official. Senate Democrats will soon have a little more power in Washington. Senator Raphael Warnock won his runoff election in Georgia, defeating Republican challenger Herschel Walker, who conceded last night. And that means the Dems will have a 51-49 majority in the Senate. They likely won't have to rely on Vice President Kamala Harris to break as many tie votes. Plus, they'll have the majorities on key committees instead of being evenly split. And it should be easier for them to approve President Biden's nominees, like judges and cabinet officials. Still, Dems will have to work with the GOP. It will be a divided government, since last month Republicans won the majority of seats in the U.S. House. The Georgia race ended without any major hiccups. Election officials say there were very few problems processing the record number of early votes and 1.5 million ballots cast yesterday. This is a big moment for renewable energy. The International Energy Agency says renewables will overtake coal as the largest source of electricity generation by 2025, and that overall the world will add as much renewable power in the next 5 years as it did in the past 2 decades. That forecast is almost 30% higher than it was just last year. And the IEA says this is a silver lining to the energy crisis the world is going through right now, that higher prices force more people to switch to renewables, making the energy system, quote, cleaner and more secure. Renewables include wind turbines, solar panels, nuclear power plants, electric vehicles, electric heat pumps, and more. And the biggest difference makers over the next few years are expected to be China, the European Union, and the U.S. Speaking of which, the U.S. made renewable energy history this week with the country's first offshore wind auction for the Pacific Ocean. Dozens of companies bid for leases to develop commercial-scale floating wind farms off the coast of California. The auction attracted more than $400 million in bids, and the Biden administration says these projects could one day power 1.5 million homes. Similar auctions are in the works off Oregon's coast next year and in the Gulf of Maine in 2024. More news is still coming up, but first, this episode is brought to you by KiwiCo. I love the focus on family around the holidays. For us, we get at least an extra day or two off work, and we use that time to be together. And so it's really nice to have some exciting new things to do with the kids in our family, all without having to spend a fortune. If you're not familiar, KiwiCo offers hands-on science, art, and geography projects delivered right to your door every month. I really appreciate that KiwiCo does the legwork for me so I can spend that quality time playing with my son instead of searching for what creative things we can do together. And I know that when I give KiwiCo as a gift, I'm giving that child a unique experience without putting a big burden on the parents. KiwiCo helps to cultivate children's natural creativity and curiosity. Each crate is designed by experts and tested by kids. And there's no commitment to the subscription. You can pause or cancel anytime. Give awesome this holiday with KiwiCo and get your first month free on any crate line at kiwico.com/newsworthy. That's your first month free at KIWICO, kiwico.com/newsworthy. The United States is getting more competitive in the world of computer chips, and it's bringing Arizona a big economic boost. Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC just announced it's tripling its planned investment for a new Arizona plant in Phoenix. Spending has now ballooned to $40 billion. It's one of the largest foreign investments in U.S. history. The chips would be for everything from Apple iPhones to computer graphics cards and much more. Already, Apple says it plans on being one of the new chip plant's biggest customers, which is a big change since Apple has historically gotten its chips from other countries. On top of that chip factory in Phoenix, another company is building a lithium battery factory in Tucson, helping to make batteries for electric vehicles. Together, the chip and battery factories would bring around 14,000 new jobs to Arizona. So we've already told you about a wave of tech layoffs. Well, now it's the media industry that's having to resort to layoffs and other cost-cutting measures. The digital media company BuzzFeed is one of the latest to announce cuts, laying off 12% of its staff. CNN, The Washington Post, the owner of USA Today, and several more are either planning to or already have let go of hundreds of employees. CNN's sister station, HLN, just ended all of its live programming. Many analysts expect more companies to announce layoffs well into 2023. The owner of Facebook and Instagram faced some harsh words from its oversight board. The company-appointed board says the system of giving high-profile users preferential treatment has gone too far, putting business interests over the interests of its users. It said people with a high number of followers, like celebrities and politicians, have been able to say and share things on Facebook and Instagram that would be taken down right away if someone else posted it. It's happening through a program called Crosscheck, where high-profile users always have human moderators review posts that may be violating the company's terms of service, even though an automated system may remove posts for most other users. The company, Meta, has said it's meant to make sure posts removed in error don't have a major impact. But the oversight board is calling for the system to get an overhaul and become more transparent. Meta says it'll respond to the oversight board's report within 90 days, though keep in mind, Meta is not required to implement the board's recommendations. Want to see what went viral this year? Just look at the list of TikTok's top videos of 2022. It just came out. With hundreds of millions of views, these clips, while short, are pulling in more viewers than the Super Bowl. The top clip this year pulled in more than 308 million views alone. It takes viewers through the delicious creation of an 8-foot-tall chocolate giraffe. The runner-up features a squirrel named Squishy stuffing his mouth with nuts out of a person's hand. Others on the top 5 include Coco the toddler telling her mom, "I'm just a baby," and the stars of Riverdale doing a deadpan dance to the song Jiggle Jiggle. If you want to check the videos out yourself, just click on the link in today's episode notes. It was another dramatic shocker at the World Cup. This time, the country of Morocco brought down soccer giant Spain. It wasn't just unexpected, it was a historic win. It's the first time in World Cup history that an Arab team has ever made it to the quarterfinals, aka the Final 8. The unexpected victory sent Moroccan fans in their own country and across Europe into a frenzy of celebration. Of course, the celebrations are bound to only get bigger if the team keeps on winning. But hopefully they stay peaceful. Just 10 days ago, full-on riots broke out in Belgium and the Netherlands when Morocco's fans cheered in the streets after their team beat Belgium. So we'll have to see what this week brings. At this point, the World Cup is down to just 8 teams: the Netherlands, Argentina, Croatia, Brazil, England, France, Portugal, and now Morocco. The quarterfinals start on Friday. Well, that's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Rothy's. I recently got a text from my friend who listens to this show. She told me her mom sent her a pair of Rothy's shoes for Christmas, and she is already blown away after her first day of wearing them to work. She wrote to me, quote, "They are seriously the most comfy flats ever," with 3 exclamation points. She also sent me a picture, and yes, I can verify they are super cute. I think the style is the point in the desert cat color. I really like that look of that pattern. I personally have the point shoes in black, and I love them because they can go with everything. But desert cat would really take your outfit to the next level. And if you've listened before, then you know Rothy's are made to last, are machine washable, and are sustainably made with their signature thread repurposed from single-use plastic bottles. Get stylish shoes, versatile and durable enough to wear all the time with Rothy's. Get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Well, it looks like holiday office parties are making a big comeback. A survey by the business and executive coaching firm Challenger Gray & Christmas found 57% of companies this year say they plan to throw an end-of-the-year holiday party for their employees. And that's more than double what it was last year, when only 26% of companies held a holiday party. Of course, the pandemic put a stop to a lot of the workplace get-togethers for the past 2 years. Now, event planners say they're getting a lot of very large requests from some very big companies. In fact, 16% of the companies surveyed said they would be spending more on their big holiday get-together this year than normal. With many employees still working from home, business analysts say more companies want to give their workers a reason to come back to the office space and reconnect with coworkers. All right, thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine. We will catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.